In 1830, Auguste Comte proposed a social physics. He believed human interaction followed deterministic laws as reliable as Newtonian mechanics, yet he lacked the computational fidelity to map the social atom. Modern behavioral analysis has reached that juncture. By stripping away centuries of subjective interpretation, we can now view human behavior through the cold lens of vector field theory and non-equilibrium thermodynamics. Within this framework, morality is the state of the system. We describe a configuration as good when it reaches a low-strain homeostatic equilibrium. This state of low energy is characterized by minimized free energy and systemic stability. It is the path of least resistance for a collective. Antisocial behavior operates as an entropic force. It creates a high-strain, high-temperature configuration. Because this state is inherently unstable, it requires constant injections of energy, usually through coercion or deception, to prevent total systemic collapse. To engineer a stable society, we must understand the mechanics of this system: one underlying process, two modes of force, and four axes of interaction. These mechanics provide the engineering requirements for long-term survival in a highly connected world. The model begins with the social atom, the individual consciousness. Every person acts as a point source of potentiality, generating vectors of intent within a shared social space. An infinitesimal distance separates every mind. You cannot perfectly map another's consciousness. Navigating this gap requires logic, the rules of cause and effect. Following a logical path creates a stable connection, resulting in a predictable outcome with low friction. If an actor denies reality through projection or manufactured justifications, they break that causal continuity. These illogical moves generate unpredictable, high-strain outcomes that vibrate through the network. Moral strain measures this mechanical friction. It is the resistance encountered when the system deviates from a logical, efficient path toward a solution. Within this multidimensional vector field, every individual's intent has a magnitude of conviction and a direction aimed at a specific outcome. The first force, positivity, operates as a negentropic pull. It reduces the overall disorder of the field. A transparent, certain solution possesses mass in this information space. This mass curves the field, creating a gravity well that naturally attracts the vectors of independent agents. Because the solution acts as an attractor, it allows for massive, complex coordination without the need for external force. The system slides toward the center of its own accord. The counterforce, negativity, operates through a mechanism of perceptual inversion. By using deception to obscure a solution, an antisocial actor inverts the perceived geometry. They convince the collective that a simple, achievable goal is actually an insurmountable peak. This inversion scatters the vectors of the collective. It injects heat and noise into the field, preventing a stable consensus from ever forming. These forces act across four axes. The first determines the flow of agency, power versus empowerment. Antisocial systems treat agency as a finite resource to be hoarded. By enclosing knowledge within black boxes, they create high-friction environments that require increasing energy to maintain. Social systems treat agency as generative. The Linux kernel serves as a proof. By distributing the code freely, it created a massive attractor field of thousands of contributors, eventually powering the top supercomputers in the world. The second axis concerns the relationship between truth and action, justification versus transparency. A smart selfish strategy follows a distinct algorithm: hide a selfish objective, invent a manufactured problem, and create a shocking distraction. During the 2011 U.S. debt ceiling crisis, political actors weaponized a procedural formality. They created the threat of a global default to force an austerity agenda that lacked a legislative majority.
This manufactured crisis injected enough entropy into the system to downgrade the U.S. credit rating for the first time in history. Contrast this with the low-friction mechanics of transparency, where the truth of the goal precedes the action. The Montreal Protocol succeeded by openly sharing the scientific data and the associated economic costs of ozone protection. This transparency eliminated the transaction costs of trust, leading to the multilateral fund and a nearly total phase-out of harmful chemicals. Systems built on enclosure and justification require exponentially increasing energy to defend their deceptions. They are thermodynamically doomed to collapse under the weight of their own friction. The third axis maps the relational geometry between the self and the other, projection versus empathy. Projection acts as a weapon of epistemic chaos. Strategists use the dead cat strategy to inject shocking, irrelevant information that overrides the logical flow of a debate. This high-magnitude distraction forces the collective attention to scatter, preventing any meaningful solution. Empathy acts as the structural requirement for system integration. It is the force that bridges the microscopic gap between individuals. Apartheid-era South Africa represented the ultimate antisocial state of forced separation and maximum strain. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission used empathy to stabilize the state. By trading punishment for public transparency, they allowed victims to be heard and perpetrators to disclose their actions. This process neutralized the high-strain potential energy of decades of hatred, preventing the predicted civil war. The final axis defines the goal of the system, the necessity of problems versus the drive for solutions. An antisocial system requires a perpetual state of conflict to justify the hoarding of power. If it actually solves a problem, the actor loses their leverage. Therefore, the system must constantly manufacture new enemies. The Global Polio Eradication Initiative proves the alternative. Despite localized rumors and sabotage, the global coalition maintained a singular, solution-oriented vector. This clear attractor eventually overcame the entropy of the virus and the disinformation surrounding it. A social system builds compounding, generative infrastructure that survives long-term. An antisocial system is a parasite that eventually kills its host. These historical outcomes are not coincidences. They are the result of mathematical constraints on information flow. In information theory, entropy measures uncertainty. Hiding intent injects uncertainty into a social network, building up informational noise. This noise creates conflict, experienced as moral strain. Ultimately, social entropy and moral strain are the exact same metric, measuring a society's proximity to total informational deadlock. Computational models of opinion dynamics prove that a system with high noise levels can never reach a stable consensus. It is mathematically barred from equilibrium. This is where we see the evolution of the smart altruistic actor. In repeated interactions, pure selfishness is an unstable strategy because it invites immediate retaliation. Over time, the costs of defending against that retaliation outweigh the gains of the selfish act. A smart altruist recognizes this and builds large-scale coalitions that make antisocial behavior prohibitively expensive. They utilize transparency and empowerment to reduce the energy required for cooperation. For a highly connected species, this cooperative configuration is the Nash equilibrium, the only state where no individual can improve their position by acting alone. If cooperation is the only mathematically stable configuration for our species, then good describes a system following the logical, low-friction path to survival. Constructive collaboration is a physical requirement for the continuity of human society.